everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so glad that you're here today. Now this video is dedicated to all of my fellow counselors in training that are gearing up to take the NCE, which is the National Counselor Exam, and I could not be more excited for each of you that are watching this video and that are prepping to do this. So if this is the first time we're meeting, hi, my name is Deyanira Cavazos. I am a fellow counselor in training. I recently graduated, took the NCE and passed, and that is why I am here making this video. It has felt so rewarding and amazing to be able to connect with other counselors in trainings through this platform and over on my Instagram. Receiving your DMs and letting me know that the content that I'm putting out is helpful to you means the world. So thank you so much. It is so encouraging for me and motivates me to continue making content for you. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what materials I use to study for and pass the NCE, as well as additional study tips that I hope you will find useful. So first things first, let's go ahead and talk about what I personally used to help me pass the NCE, what I studied with. And I honestly kept it really old school with my study materials. I went with the Encyclopedia of Counseling by Howard Rosenthal. And what I liked about this specific study material was that he goes really into depth into every section and portion that you're going to need to know. And he also utilizes a lot of mnemonics, memory devices, so a lot of the material really sticks as you're reading it in this book. It is very in-depth. Now, the next portion of this didn't age very well with the times that we're currently living in, but I found it extremely helpful, and that is the audio CD exam prep. I know, CDs. I really wish these weren't in CD format, but they still get the job done. So I use this in conjunction with the ebook, and what I liked about this specific study material was that you're able to listen at your convenience. So if you're someone who is on the go or you're currently working and you want to have something to listen to on your way to work and have it be this productive time where you're learning on the go, I highly suggest this option. I actually have one video on my channel where I was utilizing to study, and I remember at one point I was even just loading the dishes in the dishwasher and I was listening. Now the third material that I used to study is literally just a supply, and it was this notebook right here. I really enjoyed using this to take down notes as I was listening to the audiobook, and anything that I really wanted to study further, I made sure to take notes as I was following along or reading along, and it was so helpful. Now, you definitely don't have to use a notebook. You can always type it out, but I find that something that has worked for me through undergrad and grad school, whenever I'm learning maybe a new material or something that I really want to stick, it helps me a lot more, and it's been proven that if you write it down, it will definitely help you memorize it. So let's go ahead and talk about extra study materials that you can utilize, because even though I used these and they were really helpful to me, I find that everyone studies a little bit different, and you might enjoy adding something else into your study routine. So I want to go ahead and make those available for you too. So another study resource that you can use is the NBCC Study Prep Guide. You can find this on the NBCC website, nbcc.org, and you can go ahead and purchase through their site. Now again, this isn't something that I utilize, but I want to let you know of any other extra materials. That way you can do your own research and see if this is something that you would like to incorporate. Another material that I've heard of is the National Counseling Exam Free Practice Test, and you can go ahead and take a little pre-test to see where your knowledge lies, what content areas you really need to focus on when you move forward, and if this is something that you'd like to do prior to starting your studying. It's a great way to sort of warm yourself up to studying, because it can be a little bit hard to begin studying, especially after you've already graduated, or if you're in the midst of graduating. To study something else can feel a little overwhelming and taxing. So I definitely suggest easing into it a little bit at a time. You can also go ahead and find other resources at nbcc.org/study, and I will go ahead and leave everything that I just mentioned, all the study materials, down in the description box with links. That way you can go ahead and find those directly. Now, I also do want to share some extra little side tips for you if you're trying to save your coin, because I know that cost can really add up when we're on our licensure journey, and I got you. So check out your school library, because they may have these exam preps and study materials readily available for you. Also check with other friends or colleagues who have maybe already taken this exam, because they might be willing to share this with you or even sell it to you at a lower cost. Another option is to also split the cost with another grad school friend, and then you can go ahead and share study materials. Now, something that was truly helpful for me was that I was able to build relationships with other counselors where I was interning, and they shared these test prep materials. So I highly suggest that when you find yourself in your practicum and internships, take time to also network and build relationships with the other counselors in your midst, if you have any, because they are some of the greatest options for resources that you have. And I don't know how it is in other programs, but at least in my program, like I've stated before in my videos, other counselors and counselors in training are always down to help each other out, because we all know how financially taxing all of these things can be when you're fresh out of grad school or getting ready to graduate. Okay, everyone, so moving on now to the study tip portion of this video, and I really enjoy some good study tips and sharing them with others. So here we go. Be sure to save this video for later, or also write some of these tips down. Now, this portion of the video I find highly important, if not almost even more important than what you use to study, because how you study is going to set the tone for your study experience and will definitely affect the outcome and how you perform on your test. So tip number 1 is to study how you study best. Now, let's go ahead and break this down and talk about this a little bit further. So a good question to ask yourself is, how do I study best? Do I study best in a group setting, alone? Would it benefit me to maybe do a Zoom call with some of my other grad school friends and get together and study? Or am I the type of person that really gets distracted when I am among other people and I am studying? Also think about location, where you want to study, how you want to study, the materials that you want to use. For instance, I used the audio CDs, as I mentioned earlier, but maybe you're not an audio learner and you don't really enjoy that and you find it distracting. So it's so important to find ways that you enjoy studying and to think back on your grad school experience and your university experience and see how you've studied and what has worked for you in the past. It's also going to be super important to not overwhelm yourself with study materials. Make sure that you select maybe 2 to 3 options of study materials that you can utilize, because especially if you're choosing a timeline between where you want to study, maybe 1 to 2 months of study time before you go and take the exam, you don't want to be overwhelmed with so much. Now, tip number 2 that I have for you is to make a study plan and schedule. This is going to be a great way to keep yourself accountable and to really time things out to see how long you have to study these materials. For instance, I ended up graduating December 2020, and then I ended up taking a little over a month and a half to study. So what I ended up doing was going into my Google Calendar and creating a study schedule for myself, time blocking the times that I was going to be studying. And you can also write this down instead, or create yourself a little spreadsheet, whatever is going to be more useful for you and also just practical. But I know having my Google Calendar and organizing that schedule for myself was what really kept me accountable throughout the month, because even if I didn't follow every single day to a T, knowing that, you know, on these days I had already studied a certain portion that I needed to, okay, but this next day I didn't really feel like studying, so I know how much I still have to study up until the day that I take this exam. And I personally made sure to dedicate more time to the sections that I knew that were going to be covered a little bit more and that were also just a little bit harder for me. So for instance, even though I didn't encounter a lot of research questions on the exam, I still made sure to brush up a little bit on it, because you never know, that one little extra question could make the difference. So I did make sure to really dedicate time to brushing up on my theory, techniques, group counseling, and all of the portions that can be a little bit more bulky on the exam. And because I personally found it a little bit difficult to want to study after graduating, what really helped me was first listening to the audio CDs. So I did that for almost half of the month, where I just eased into studying by listening to the audiobook, and that was so helpful because some days I did not feel like reading, so having that was really helpful. And once I felt like I was up to sitting down and reading and studying in that way, I started dedicating the other half of the time that I had left to actually reading the Encyclopedia of Counseling and reading that material. So again, it's going to be really important to consider how you study in order for you to set up your study schedule. And I also want to say that some of the portions that I studied took me a little bit longer to cover. You're also going to be learning as you go when it comes to your study schedule and your whole routine, because you will encounter that some of the material might be a little bit easier to digest and just blow through, and other material might take you a little bit longer. You might need to write some things down or type some things up to really help you memorize it, or watch videos that can also be an accompaniment. And with that being said, that leads me into tip number 3, which is to practice self-care and relaxation techniques as you need them. And I say this because it's going to be super important for you to implement practical self-care tips, and also just taking breaks to take a breather, because when I was studying, it felt like a never-ending process. I mean, I was waking up from morning, spending all afternoon, and even sometimes full-on evenings. So because everyone is coming at this from a different point and a different lifestyle, it's going to be super important for you to take time to self-care in a practical way that works for you. You know, maybe for you it's going for walks, or taking small mini breaks in between studying to watch something, or to talk to someone, to listen to your favorite playlist, or to take time to just go outside, get some air, you know. But in trying to meet our goals and to do all of these things that we aspire to do, it is so important to still try to do at least small things each day that help us take care of ourselves and to just stay sane and protect our mental health. Now, those are all of the tips that I have for you today. I really hope that you found this video helpful, and if you did, be sure to share it with another counselor in training so it can help them along their journey as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested, I also have a video of the day that I took the NCE, and I shared my experience on that, so I will go ahead and link that for you up in the cards. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any additional questions, be sure to leave them down in the comment section or message me over on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. Remember, you got this. I believe in you. I know you can do this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye everyone.